Hey, good afternoon. It's the afternoon of the 25th of February. Okay, so what I'm going to talk about today is the difference between being a right-wing conservative, which I am, and a lot of friends, and just being a conspiracy theory extremist. Now, that doesn't mean if you're a conspiracy theory extremist that you're like a dangerous person or a terrorist, because there are extremists, I've talked about this before, who go to the point where they are dangerous. They want, they resort to violence. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about an ideology here that I find a little troubling. So I don't like to put things in general into just political compartments because I think it's much more important to have a morality. Coming from a very deep Christian background, I think you have to approach everything from what's right or wrong morally. However, I'm going to have this conversation, more in a political vein. I don't like to do that very often. So the thing is, I see a lot of friends that I have friends that are very liberal, and I have no problem with that. I love them all. A lot of them are good people in their heart. They mean well. I don't agree with what they think, but I don't hate them, obviously, and they have a right to their opinions, and we try to learn. And I have people that are conservative, like myself, which I obviously agree with. Then I have people that are the fringe. I believe they're called the fringe. And these people are the conspiracy theorists. They're really extreme. I guess you can say to the right. I find that to be a problem. And I find that to be a problem to the point where it's out of reality. See, when problems happen, and a friend of mine was talking the other day, very astute, a Christian conservative, but not an extremist. We accept certain deaths, for instance, deaths in everyday life we accept as they're going to happen, right? And others we don't. We want to make excuses for them. They're so shocking to us, or they're out of the ordinary to us, that our brains, we have to try to make something rational out of things that are often irrational. For instance, we know there's going to be gang violence and people die in the cities of Chicago and New York and Detroit and things like that. We hear it in the news all the time, and but we don't think anything of it. Why? Because we're so ingrained in expecting it. The weekend news and tell us 13 people died in the south side of Chicago this weekend, and Detroit and this in New York. So we hear it all the time. We become ingrained. Okay? Kids killed in abortion every day. I'm not going to go into the morality. You know how I feel about that. But we're so used to hearing it, it doesn't bother us. People killed in a war. If we hear people overseas were killed, even though it's tragic, we're so used to it that it just doesn't mean, we're used to it happening. The poor kids that die every day of cancer, going through the St. Jude and wherever else they go, the child cancer cases that we know exist. We see the advertisements all the time. Yeah, they're tragic, but we're so used to it happening all the time that in our mind they become accepted deaths. But when we hear gun shooters, things that are out of the ordinary, 911, for instance, all the deaths there. Those are not the normal things that happen every day, and so we have to make a rationale. And a lot of times where the conspiracy theorists come in. And that's what bothers me, because I think it's very dangerous and it's not looking at reality. Those are not the type of things that we're willing to accept, even though there really isn't any difference between, if you think about it, a death of somebody being shot by a gunner or a kid dying of cancer. They're both deaths. It's just one is, I guess you can say, accepted because we know the cancer is going to happen, and the other one is unexpected. They're both deaths, and they're both tragic. 911 as well. All those people that died in that tower, tragic. It's not any different than anybody else who goes down the road and gets hit by a drunk in a car and dies. It's still a death. But because we're so used to those others that happen all the time, and we're not used to seeing an out of ordinary death, that we have to rationalize it with conspiracy theories. Very astute, this gentleman was talking to me, and I agree with him. The coronavirus. The coronavirus, I believe, has been used politically. There's no doubt about it. But the coronavirus is very real. It's not fake. Okay, I've had it twice. Okay, and there's a lot of evidence that has shown. I've talked to a lot of astute doctors, conservative doctors, especially recently. I had a stroke. Very healthy man, over 2 years ago. Okay, I've said this before, but every test is negative. My diet's pretty solid. I'm not overweight. I don't smoke. I barely drink, and yet I have a high fiber diet, and yet I had a stroke, and everything came out normal. There's a lot of evidence that people who had the coronavirus, this has nothing to do with the vaccines, by the way. It's another issue. This is before vaccines. People have had the coronavirus, clotting their blood. They've had uprise of heart attacks and strokes. I'm an example. So I'm not going to be on the left and say, I don't believe that you had it, wear all these masks all the time. I get it. But there is conspiracy, contingency people think coronavirus is fake. It's not fake. It's real. Okay? I've had it twice. My wife's had it twice. I had a stroke that very well could have been the cause of it. It's not fake. So to sit there and say that I've heard these people, it's fake, it's just, they're only making actors, you see the actors have it because it's all coordinated. No, coronavirus is real. Just like some of these gun shootings, okay? A lot of these people are malcontents. Lots of them were people who worked at a place and then they get fired. We've seen that. They go back in, remember in Connecticut, they start shooting. A lot of these people are derelicts. But I've heard some people say, the government's giving them the guns to shoot people so we can take guns away. Come on, okay? I'm not anti-gun. I've been in the military a long time. I'm certainly not anti-gun. But that's just far out craziness, nonsense. A lot of these people are just, the people that are shooting have issues, okay? They're not normal citizens. They have a lot of issues, a lot of anger, whatever. Everyone is a little different. The motivations are so bizarre. But to sit there and automatically think, the government, the left is giving them guns to shoot people. Where are you getting this from? Is it, again, you're trying to make a justification for deaths that are not accepted. These are not normal things that should be happening. Not that any death is good. I'm just saying, not that this is a normal thing that you expect to happen. Therefore, we try to make a justification. This person didn't really he was paid by the government to go in and shoot these people. Come on. Okay, this is what I'm talking about. Extremist. 911. George Bush wanted to take down the buildings to get us into a war. Get the hell out. And kill all those people. Tragic like that. George Bush, like him or not, was a Christian man. And I know he's actually going to sit there and say, let's kill all these people so we can. There's been so many debunks of the 911 theory, conspiracy theory anyways. I'm not going to go into that. These are the same people say we didn't go on the moon. The world is flat. I don't want to go into that. These are all the same people that say that. There's a difference between, I've heard another one. Putin's a good guy. Okay, look. And the reasoning they say that is because they try to say they don't like Biden. Okay, I'm gonna say I don't say much about the president because I'm in the military and I can't. But my honest opinion, I'm not a fan of this administration. You know that for a lot of reasons. But that doesn't justify Putin. To sit there and say Putin's a good guy just because you don't like Biden. That's of this conspiracy stuff. It's craziness. It's extreme right wing. Everything is a conspiracy. Everything is done, no. I mean, you can be a right wing Christian conservative like I am without going to the realm of this conspiracy theory craziness, okay? No, I don't believe that. I've even heard people I'm not going to go into the abortion thing because obviously I'm against abortion, 100%. But there's also a contingent of people that believe that different people, these high elites, and I've heard this, and this is really, really troubling, that are drinking the blood of the babies that are aborted and eating their flesh to try to stay young. What is this, like a Hammer horror movie or something like that? This is extremism to the right, which is actually very dangerous. Okay? Because now we have no focus. Everything that happens is because of a conspiracy. We don't want to deal with the reality of what's there. And so we make up every situation that comes up has to be because of a conspiracy. That, my friends, is dangerous. That's not logic. That's dangerous. That's not, you've gone beyond the realm of conservative now. What you've gone is just to be a full nut job is what you've done. Everything doesn't appear what it seems. And again, because I'll go back to what I said in the original as I end this. There are certain events and deaths that happen all the time and tragedies that we have no problem accepting because they happen all the time. We've been used to them. We've been ingrained. But when things happen that are not expected, shootings, 911, things like that, the coronavirus, we can't accept these because these are not normal. So we have to create in our minds that everything's a conspiracy. This shouldn't have happened, but it was put on by somebody because it makes us feel better about ourselves. Okay? The difference between being a right-wing conservative, which I am, and just being a flat-out conspiracy nut job, which I've seen a lot of people are. Okay? And a lot of people like coronavirus can say, look, I'm not saying I am not here. I honestly believe the coronavirus was used very politically. I honestly believe that. But to say that it doesn't exist, like I've heard some people say, and it was just something pushed, no, coronavirus exists. I know, personally. Because I've had it twice. My wife has had it. And I can't say for a fact, but there's a good chance that the stroke that I had came about 9 months after having the coronavirus. Again, way before vaccines, so that's a different conversation altogether. It has nothing to do with that. One of the doctors I recently talked to, he goes, I saw a huge influx. And this guy wasn't a liberal, by the way. A huge influx in the next 6 to 9 months of people who had the coronavirus, had it, recovered, like I did, no problem, strokes and heart attacks. Why? Because a lot of times it clots your blood, which is what a stroke is, of course, which is what I had. So it is real. It's not something to sit there and say it's fake or it's made up. No, it's real. But that's my talk for the day. 3 types of people. Okay, well, 4 types. You get left-wing liberals, you get left-wing extremists. That's another conversation for another day, and I think I've talked about that. Then you get right-wing conservatives, like me. And then you get extremists, which I will not hail to. When you become extremist, I've said this before, when you become an extremist, you are one and the same. I don't care if you're in a left wing or right wing. When you become an extremist, you are out of focus. And you are living in a fantasy world. You're not trying to find the truth. You're trying to find what sounds good to you and feels good to you. That becomes a problem. It's hard to reel you in when you're extremist because these people, the world is, like I talked to a flat earther. Most of these people, the majority of these people are not educated. They don't know anything about physics or science. They don't care to know. They take the Bible literally, which is dangerous. Okay? And they use biblical references to justify flat earth, which is tragic. Okay? And it's if you listen to them, it's like driving a cement with a pencil. You can't get through to them. You can show them science. You can talk to them from a Christian standpoint, a true Christian standpoint. You can use logic. But everybody is, according to them, everybody is lying. Everybody's part of this big government conspiracy. And everybody that works for NASA is all part of all this indoctrinated and all that. And they have no clue of what they're really talking about. It just sounds good to them, makes them feel good. So please, if you're a conservative and you're fringing on all these conspiracies, think very hard what you're doing. Think very hard before you go on, because you're really not a conservative anymore. You're a fringe. And when you're a fringe, you're off on your own. And it can be very dangerous because you can be very out of focus, even if you have good intentions. And sometimes a lot of these people do. They start out good intentions and their imaginations go with them. and that's a problem. It's Rick here on 25 February, hoping that you have a great day and a great weekend. It's beautiful here from Rock On. I got to get outside. It's beautiful. All right. God bless. Bye.